Welcome in the ninth video in which we will speak about the lore of Soulsborne and my personal theory about everything, my theory of everything. So it is the next one will be the final episode. So today we introduce one of the most important character for me. It is the Moon Presence. So the Moon Presence is part of Bloodborne, where there are two main protagonists to me that are Ebrietas and the Moon Presence. They represent the two opposite concepts of Apollinian and Dionysiac. So Apollinian is basically what has to do with soul and fire, so clarity, knowledge, and what else we want to add. And then we have the Dionysian, that is everything about occult and dark and forest, nature, and not man. I mean, not the mind of the man, but something more subconscious. So conscious and subconscious, we can even divide in this way. I want to highlight why I think like this, considering what we have said till now about the souls being in Ebrietas and in form of blood, and the Moon Presence to be the part on the other side that has a lack of souls, and has the dark souls want to withdraw these souls. We can have a connection between the sun, then the souls, and the Ebrietas, even thanks to the sunflower or the moonflower that look like sunflowers that are in the garden in front of the place where we find her, or in general everywhere is about the church of Cure. And we can find in the dream of the hunter there are the lilies that are connected to the moon. In particular, are connected to the moon in the story The Crawling Chaos, in which of H.P. Lovecraft, in which the moon is, as a metaphor of his light, shoot this blossom of lilies toward the earth. And still in the work of H.P. Lovecraft, the Hunter Dream the Hunter Dream seems like a kind of city with very tall onyx towers that on their top have gardens. So we can consider these two kind of reference to these stories. In The Shadow Out of Time. In The Crawling Chaos and The Shadow Out of Time. And I make this connection because soon we are gonna compare the Moon Presence to a character by H.P. Lovecraft. So basically what happens is that the souls inside the Ebrietas are given or are taken by the humans that then transform in beasts, as the human that are in contact with the dark souls tend to transform in monsters. And so these souls then are withdrawn by the demons of the Moon Presence, that in this case are the hunters, and are sent by the Moon Presence. Okay, and then the dense blood will be absorbed by the Moon Presence. So the connection with the character of H.P. Lovecraft is obviously Nyarlathotep, for who knows the work of Lovecraft. And there are several physical characteristics that can resemble him. And let's go to see which one. So both of them are tricksters. So they are gods that prepare tricks or are in different kind of disguise or create problems to the other gods, and in general, what they have in common here is that they prepare some kind of trap for the main character, that is the hunter, or that may be other character in the stories of H.P. Lovecraft as Carter in the Research of the Unknown Kadat. Then they both have a tentacle on the head. We can see there is a specific tentacle on the face that starts from the face of the moon presence. And in general, the modern version of some role-playing games with Nyarlathotep show Nyarlathotep with this big cloud that we saw in the previous slide. The number 3 is repeated often about Nyarlathotep. Indeed, we find it in The Hunter of the Dark, has 3 eyes of fire. The Dream in the Witch House, 3 circles in the sky. The tree in the hill is a soul eater from ancient Egypt and is a vision, and during a vision has 3 suns. There are 3 shadows of this tree that he represents, and he even represents a tree in this story. So it resembles a little this shape that we have described, similar to Shub-Niggurath and to the old one together. And in the Crawling Cows, soul eater from ancient. So he is even a soul eater. So we confirm he is eating the souls from Ebraitas. In the Crawling Cows does not appear, but the moon does, as we said before. So there may be even there the connection with the moon. But let's say that the stories of H.P. Lovecraft, it's very difficult to find one where the moon is not mentioned. So here we may assume that maybe even Hidetaka Miyazaki had to speculate about the work of H.P. Lovecraft and may think that maybe the moon was in some way connected with the moon presence. Of course, it is connected with Shub-Niggurath, but that is a character that has a specific, particular story in the work of H.P. Lovecraft, and maybe we can speak about this distinction moreover. And it seems to come from the Egypt, in particular because of this symbol that I'm quite proud of finding this connection between the symbol of Odeon, one of the name of the moon presence, and the symbol that means moon in Egyptian language. Even more presence than as 3 eyes that we find on that strange kind of face. We have here to remember that the Nyarlathotep is even called between his many names the faceless god, so we can consider this as a faceless god as well. He eats souls too. He looks like a tree and is connected to Egypt. Okay, so before when I said that it seems to come from Egypt, I was explaining why moon presence is connected with the symbol with Egypt, but actually even Nyarlathotep is connected to Egypt because in the tale Nyarlathotep, called Nyarlathotep, he is a pharaoh-like person that seems to have come from Egypt with a dark skin. So in the next slide we see the names of these creatures. Both of them have many names. One in particular exaggerates enough, but this is because because this is some characteristic that was given from H.P. Lovecraft to Nyarlathotep about having many names and even having many forms. That's why even Shapeless Odeon is a very good name for a character that is one of the representation of Nyarlathotep. So Nyarlathotep, having many shapes and many names, is easily borrowable. It's easy to borrow to other writers because everyone can put in his story, choosing a shape and choosing a name for him, a different name. and this opened speculation for many stories. A little in the same way as The Mask with Jim Carrey. At the end of the movie, you find out that that mask has been a representation of Loki. That's because there are so many ways in which this kind of tricky gods can be represented in different shape and different names. So the names in Bloodborne that I remembered in the moment I wrote them are Moon Presence, Odeon, Flora, Pale Blood, and I would even add Hunter of Hunters, as it is described in one of the description. In for Nyarlathotep we find much more names that are mainly from even parallel stories that are not directly written by H.P. Lovecraft. But in general, the more important are Nyarlathotep, the Crawling Chaos, and the Messenger, Earth and Soul of the other outer gods. So maybe even Bloody Tongue, because we can connect it with the drinking of blood. Okay, here we have several symbols all over Soulsborne series about the moon presence, and then about Nyarlathotep, and then the moon presence. We see that the symbol of tree repeats. In particular, on the top left, we see the symbol of hunter, and then we see a symbol of some kind of artifact that is, if I will remember, for something that has to do with dragons. Really, now I don't remember, but it seems very similar to the symbol of the hunter. And this kind of talisman cure you from poison and gives you a high quantity of life. Indeed, we can see something like a open egg with the symbol of the hunter that comes out of it, and so this is a connection with Dark Souls 2, as Dark Souls 2 is as with Dark Souls 2 is the connection of the ring of the blood path, still from Dark Souls 2, that is similar to the symbol on the right of Odeon, and on the symbol on the left again the symbol of the hunter. So these symbols on the top are all quite similar, and they show how the idea of using Nyarlathotep was manifested even in Dark Souls 2 with the symbology. On the right, we already saw that there is this connection with the symbol of the moon in the ancient Egypt. And then I would even like to speak about the symbol of egg that we see here on the bottom. Of course, it reminds the Begilit of Berserk, or Berserk, according to which live you watched in the last year. And here there is the oh yeah, I make a reference about the Italian thing, so you will never get it. Anyway, here is the orb, the red orb that is very similarly to the humanity, or everything is dark, allowed to travel between the different dimensions. And by the way, this thing of the obscurity always has to do with traveling between dimensions, is another thing that I would connect with the connection between Dark Souls and the black holes, because they both distort time somehow. Anyway, here we find these several symbols that remind eggs and that have a symbol of life, and they can be connected with the symbol on the top, with the egg, with the symbol of the hunter. Here there is the description of the petrified egg in Dark Souls 2. It seems that really a lot of ideas came out in the second chapter of Dark Souls. A large petrified egg surely bears no life. Eggs are vessels that harbor life itself, and symbolize the deepest secrets of existence. But what does a petrified egg harbor? So we can not know it very well. There are several eggs in Dark Souls, and each of them may contain a great one, or may contain a dragon, or some secret, or simply just it's just a symbol of it's just a matter of symbolism. So here we have other representation of Nyarlathotep, one that remind particularly not only for shape and clothes or color of the skin, but for the context in which they two appear. Remind Gwyndolin, and on the other side there is a drawing of one of the monster of H.P. Lovecraft. One of the representation of H.P. Lovecraft in the story, the Haunter of the Dark, in the dark, from the dark. That, as we can see, is an eye with three bulbs, or at least that is how it is described in the story. And so here we have two. On the right we have the Nyarlathotep. On the top we have the Nyarlathotep representation. On the bottom we have their result. And it is even to notice that even though I think the Moon Presence doesn't have wings in the game, in all the concept art, he actually have a couple of wings. So now we go on with recognizing in each god the characteristic of Nyarlathotep, as we did with the old one. So Nyarlathotep has a rune that allow you to take the maybe Shipley's Odeon, that allow you to take the quicksilver from the blood of your victims. So the quicksilver is even a way to call Mercury, and the Mercury is even the name of a god that, between the other things, is the messenger of the gods, as Nyarlathotep has been known to be the messenger of the gods, and he is even the son of the major god, that is Zeus or Jupiter. Exactly as Nyarlathotep is the son of Azathoth. So if we can make the parallel with the word of Miyazaki, the Moon Presence is the son of, or at least has been spawned by the old one. Let's read to be sure. He has a relationship with Quicksilver, another name for Mercury. Mercury is even the name of the god, which is the messenger of gods, and son of the main god Jupiter. He even is the protector of dreams. Okay, this is another interesting thing about Hermes, if I didn't say the name before. He's the protector of dreams and a lot of travelers, communication, deception, thievers, scammers, liars, and substances. Okay. So Hermes is even somehow protector of the character, the kind of people that are associated with the trickster typology. So then we have okay, let's just read and then we speak. In general, it's a tricker god. Okay, we got it. As Loki. Loki is connected to Prometheus. Loki means fire and is the bolt meeting the tree. So here we find that Loki is the fire, okay, and represent even interesting aspect that in Dark Souls and in the Soulsborne series is often repeated, and is the one of the good balance between two powers, between the light and the dark. And in this case, we can find this light that hit the tree, the lightning that hit the tree. So in the symbology of Dark Souls, the fire and the obscurity, the darkness, that gets together in Loki. Indeed, we know that the how to call it the moon presence achievement goal is the one to get the souls of Ebraitas to become like his generator, that is the old one that has both the souls and the dark souls inside of him, if you follow me during these videos. And so the name of Loki means fire, and he's something in between the gods and the others. So Loki uh, can be, even he can be considered as a messenger, as someone that make the mediation between the gods and the ambiguous creature as the humans and the titans and whatever. So it's a particular god that can be particularly close to the humans. And then Prometeo is very similar to Loki because both of them get tied to a rock and they get tortured by some animal, like a snake or a crown, I guess, or an eagle. They are tortured in a very similar way by the gods. So many archaeologists or whatever, they guess that there is some connection between these two gods. So Prometeo take the fire of knowledge, so the fire, the clarity, as we saw in the beginning of the Demon Souls, and give it to the humans. Both of them are more human among the gods and they are punished by them. Okay, so basically Prometheus does take the first flame and give to the humans. This is the metaphor. Then here we have the fight between Set and Horus. Don't want to go too deep in this, but Horus representing the sun and Set represent not necessarily the moon that is taught, but anyways considered as a bad god in Egypt, at least in the last dynasties, while before it was bad but accepted between the good somehow. It was not bad, it was just a rivalry between Horus and him somehow. The interesting thing is that in one of the during the story of their fighting and their challenging each other in several contests, one contest one way in which they try to fight each other was about Seth trying to rape, I don't know if this is the technical term in English, abuse Horus, but Horus succeeded, make fall his semen on his legs and didn't make it fall inside. While when Horus came inside some salad and gave it to eat to Seth because it was his favorite food, and then Seth ate the semen of Horus. Then Horus and then Seth goes to the gods and says, "Look, I'm the best god because I win against Horus. I dominate him." And to prove it, he says to his own semen to come out of the body of Horus, but it comes out from the lake, no, from the river of Nilo. Because Horus launched it there, the one that Seth think to have put inside the body of Horus. On the other side, Horus said to his own semen to come out of the body of Seth, and it actually come out of the body of Seth. So he proved himself as a winner against Seth. All this long story to say simply that the blood dregs that show semen inside of them are interesting representation of this story, where Ebraitas' semen is inside of the blood that he gives to the humans, and then this semen arrives to the hunters that then is drinked directly by the moon presence. So I don't know which is the deeper meaning of this, but that's a thing. Finally, we have a connection that I make up by myself totally, maybe. That is the one with the gods of Pegana, Kib. I want to start saying that the god on the bottom is not said to be Kib. In the picture there are many gods, and I just saw a god with 3 eyes, so I decided that one is Kib. Kib is the god that created the humans and created them as the moon. So the moon always change, variate in his phases, and the moon and die and reborn, and even the human die and born. So the moon is particular symbol very close to humans, and the Kib could even be considered like somehow connected to the moon. In anyway, I even was attracted not only by his many eyes, if not only two, but even from his hair that are very similar to the hair of Gwyn. But this is just my very own, very strong speculation. Together with his horns that I don't know, I didn't see before, and his long beard, and the hair of Gwyn are even very similar to Crow or something like that, the god that keep the main god Mana Yud Sushai asleep. But you can totally forget this slide because it's just my mind that is getting crazy. So here I just want to point out something about the fact that who is very close to darkness seems to be always on a wheelchair. So it may be that they don't have enough soul rest left anymore in their body to move. But it seems that German moves quite well at the end of the game. And there is this character that is in the center that is particularly mysterious, and he has closed eyes by like the Maiden in Black. And both of these two characters on the left with German seems to be connected with the moon presence. So these two characters are even similar to our main character when his blood is taken by moon presence, and even he get to sit on a wheelchair. So somehow, if we see the guy in Dark Souls 2 that sit on a wheelchair, we can understand even more how Dark Souls 2 have this strong connection about symbology with of blood and other things with Bloodborne. So somehow I found this. There is this connection between darkness and not being able to walk or whatever. Okay, we are almost finished. Try to resist. Here there are all the characters that to me are similar to somehow to the Moon Presence and to Nyarlathotep, and especially much more similar to the old one. Indeed, there is even the old one. So let's call them characters that are similar to the old one, because here in Dark Souls and in the Soulsborne, we find often the message of the middle place between the light and the dark. And we have something like this in each one of these characters. Let's start from the center with Sith, that is a dragon, dark, that has gone to the part of the humans, of the light, fighted for the light together with Gwyn, light. Then we have the opposite. We have the son of Gwyn, that is part of the world of the light, that betray his father and go to stay with the dragons, stay on the side of the dragons. This is his dark part. There is even a guy that on some website that I will try to find again and post, find out that the two music of these two characters are quite similar between them. Then there is the Bed of Chaos, that on the bottom left, that that has a very similar function of creation as the old one. And even this Bed of Chaos has been created by Izalith. Izalith tried to create the first flame. To create the first flame, you need to have the elements that were in the first flame, so the darkness and the light together. Probably she tried to put these two things together. She obtained the horrible deformation of the darkness and the fire burning of the light put together. Probably the not putting them together very well bring to this result. So this is the bed of chaos, and the demons are created by the bed of chaos that so is totally recall the idea of the old one, a guy that has the light and the dark inside of himself, and that send out of his body demons. Then we have a connection, of course, with Aldia, that in his castle is full of the formation of monster. He did experiment, probably even he did experiment with the fire, the soul then, and the dark source that was bring back by his brother, the king. I forgot even the name of the king at this point. Veldrick. Then we have a connection between Aldia and the Pontiff Sullivan, because the Pontiff Sullivan has Aldia try to convince the king or the prince or whatever to not kindle the flame again. Aldia think as probably just Aldia think that the nature of man is not the one to get fire every time, but to become something better, something of higher level. Maybe the dragon, maybe the greater ones. I think the dragon are some kind of metaphor of the greater ones. And maybe Sullivan do the same. He convinced the prince to not sacrifice himself to renew the world, but let it go in the dark. Maybe because he comes from the painting of Ariamis, where the fire is burning everything. Maybe he's afraid of the fire. In any case, there is another proof of this connection with the bed of chaos and the other guy, because he has two swords with different power of light and magician that is related to magic, that is related to the dark. Finally, we have a purple snail in the end of the doll of Bloodborne that to me represent the hunter that got all the blood, a lot of blood from Ebraitas, and then got the dark souls or the dark blood from the moon presence, and in this way becomes this kind of purple snail that in the future may become again the old one somehow. So maybe the old one may reborn like Voldemort. Just kidding. So here we see that the symbol of egg is very important. We know that there is the angel egg cartoon that is very metaphorical. Don't want to go too much in deep in this, but I just want to mention it. And so the egg can be even a symbol of hope, or in general, as it has always been the symbol of reborn. And online, this object, the seed from the giants, Dark Souls 3, says, online play item makes enemies react to invaders. When the giant fell, they grew into great trees. That is not the end of anything that has ever once lived. That is not the end. For anything that has ever once lived, remain a part of the great cycle of regeneration. But what of those outside of the cycle? So when you use this object, I think that the monsters of the world somehow they get nuts, and they hit you, even if you are one of them, if you are a black phantom. And I think it's connected with the last sentence. But what of those outside the cycle? Those outside of the cycle, for sure, are not anything that has soul, but are the body without souls. So they are, at this point, they are out of the cycle. They are more similar to Dark Souls, and they don't have potential energy. They are already at the end of their cycle, and they may be out of the cycle at this point. So I don't know, this is a little speculation. I'll let it to you. the egg somehow even represented the humanity. The humanity is dark inside and white outside, and even this egg is like that. He can represent the soul of the old one. He can represent where the old one came from, even because the Filianor is sleeping as the old one is sleeping, and when she wake up, everything goes very bad, as it happened when the old one wakes up. Here there is an interesting sentence I'm willing to put here about Lord Dunsany, the one that started all this stuff and the reason why I lost 5 years of my life, I guess. Kidding, I didn't lost it because now I could do this video. And it says about his story, about anyway, the story where all the imaginary, part of the imaginary of H.P. Lovecraft come, and the part of the imaginary of Miyazaki then come. And it says this about his work in 1905. In The Gods of Pegana, this book, I tried to account for the ocean and the moon. I don't know whether anyone else has ever tried that before. So here I put another of my speculation. This is the slide of the super strong speculations. And I believe that maybe this is a metaphor to speak about the moon as the people, the humans. He already making his story, as I said before, with Kib. The creation of the human was different from other things. He was similar to the moon, that die and born again. That is change, is not something that stay there forever. And I think that then the moon can represent the human in this strange metaphor that Dunsany did, and the water of the ocean, especially when the moon attract it and make attract the water of the earth on her direction. I think that is the desire of the moon to achieve something, but that cannot achieve, that cannot reach. So I guess that maybe Miyazaki, very poetically, romantically, tried to account for the ocean and the moon, and maybe only one person have done this before. So let's go on. Here I want to show how similar Cthulhu seems to Ebraites. This is a drawing by H.P. Lovecraft. And here we have a joke in a letter of Lovecraft. There is no needing for me to repeat HP every second. And here I highlighted the characters that are important to me, to my theory. So Azathoth, the old one, I've created three things. The darkness, okay. We don't know how, I mean, somehow there is darkness where there is even the mist, if I well understood. But I really don't want to dig inside that part. So darkness and mist are mentioned in the Demon Soul as creation of Azathoth, of the old one. And then Nyarlathotep is not mentioned between this. So Nyarlathotep could be, as in my theory, the crawling, the moon presence, or if you prefer, it can be. I mean, if you follow my theory, it's necessary the moon presence. So let's stay here. So then the nameless mist. No, okay, the darkness have a son that is Shub-Niggurath. We speak about the Shub-Niggurath, the forest, the darkness. Go to watch the previous video. And then Shub-Niggurath and Yog-Sothoth, that you are not supposed to know, have a great number of sons, among which Cthulhu, and Cthulhu is the first one to reach the earth among them. And so Cthulhu has this asterisk that says that he's the first of this group of deities to reach the earth. And in general, we all know Cthulhu is the most important. So Nyarlathotep and Cthulhu are like cousins somehow. I mean, Moon Presence and yeah, and even Moon Presence and Brightus may be like that. I would not imagine any way that Miyazaki want to represent all the pantheon of H.P. Lovecraft exactly the same. This is just some inspiration, and this is interesting that the end of this list has where two very far cousins meet again, Viburnia and Got the Burrower, one of the little people. Okay, they have a son. They have as a son Lunwi of Wales, that is an ancestor of Owen Gwynedd. Here there is written Gwyn. I don't know if you understand this. And Gwyn then probably is the father of H.P. Lovecraft himself. So good luck to find who is H.P. Lovecraft in Dark Souls, or good luck naming your character H.P. Lovecraft if it enter in the space for the name. So here is even stronger the connection with the pantheon of H.P. Lovecraft and the pantheon of Soulsborne stories. So I want to finish the video speaking about making the final revelation before the lore revelation in general of the Soulsborne. So Nyarlathotep is called messenger, heart, and soul of the other gods. So let's move now to demon soul. Who is the messenger? A little less in this case, but earth and soul of the gods, of the outer gods. So it means Azathoth and the god he created. So the old one and the demons. The demon souls are the souls of the demon and of the old one. Then Nyarlathotep, if we continue with this connection, is the soul of the demon soul, is the demon soul, and is the old one soul. And then Nyarlathotep is even the soul of the old one in Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. Especially in 1, because after it kinda disappear or weaken. So Nyarlathotep it represented the soul of the old one in these other games, and then Nyarlathotep is the humanity. So we have answered to what the humanity is. And then we can continue the connection and say that the moon presence is the humanity is the moon presence. And then there was an effect, and ta-da, actually the humanity is the soul of the old one. The souls are an emanation of the core soul of the old one, and they are white. And the soul of the old one, that is the humanity, is even the heart and the soul of him, and is Nyarlathotep, and is the moon presence. So, if you think that I'm not crazy, you may try to take this 9 episode, take what the assumption that I try to make, and try to check them with whatever exists in Dark Souls, and check if you think that it works or it doesn't works, or if there is alternative thinking things or something that you can add to this theory. For what I care by now, apart of course that to be recognized that somehow these things are a good job, for me anyway, I have already the feeling that finally I have given at least 1% of what is in my mind about this world. And from the next episode on, I will not speak about Dark Souls again for a long time. But if you want to offer me some money, I can become a YouTuber, and I can bother your days with this kind of videos for the rest of my life, because there is too much material, and I need a job. So I hope you will not think I'm stupid, and see you in the second part of this series, of the final of this series. Bye bye.